A drop in the ocean, a change in the weather. I was praying that you and me might end up together. It's like wishing for rain as I stand in the desert. But I'm holding you closer than most, because you are my heaven. Welcome along to the Guy and Harley podcast. My name is Harley Neville.
And I'm Guy Pigden. Who was that?
That was Ron Pope from his biggest hit, A Drop in the Ocean.
Who's Ron Pope?
He's a singer who I found him when we were making the zombie film. I found that song through my flatmate at the time when we were making the zombie film. And it's just a nice song. It's a really nice song. Mild religious overtones, but I'm willing to forgive it in this case.
Mild hugging Jesus in the desert overtones?
A little bit. Yeah, praying that you and I would end up together and all of that. But yeah, bloody good stuff.
Yeah, a change of pace.
Yep.
From some of your other lyrics.
Yeah, like my usual hip hop.
Yeah.
Deathcore.
Yeah.
That type of thing. But yeah, welcome along to the Guy and Harley podcast. This is our first episode since wrapping principal photography on our new short film, provisionally titled The Long Track. And our last episode was in between the two shoot blocks. We had done the South Island shoot and we had not begun the North Island shoot. We were in pre-production for the North Island shoot. We've now done the North Island shoot. It went great, and now here we are. And one of the criticisms we got on the last episode was that we didn't talk enough about what happened in the South Island and what happened on the shoot. Basically, they're like, "This is a filmmaking podcast. This is a podcast about your lives. Where's the filmmaking info?"
Yeah,
you know.
Okay, cool.
It's like they want nitty gritty details.
Yeah.
on the shooting of the film.
Want us to spill the tea.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's go back to the first one then. Let's go back to the South Island shoot.
Yeah.
So the South Island shoot was done in the South Island where we do not live, on the Milford track where we do not have a house.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really the essentially what we were doing is we were flying down. We were filming in all these kind of locations to substitute for parts of the track further along that we could not walk to easily with a crew. And then we were filming on the track in the parts of the track that we could easily walk to with the crew. And we then stayed one night in the track at the first hut. There's 4 huts on the track spaced like, like 10 to 15 to 20 kilometers apart. And at each one you stay, have a rest, and walk the whole of the next day. But the first hut is quite close to, it's only a sort of an hour and a half walk. So it's the closest one. So that's the hut we stayed at, and essentially we walked while filming all along the way of that first hut, and then stayed the night at that hut.
So she was a whirlwind trip as well, because basically it was a 3-day, we call it 3-day shoot, but actually the very first day we were in Auckland in the morning. We had to wake up.
Yep.
We had to be on the very first flight, which is 7 a.m. So you got to be at the airport at 6 a.m. So you got to leave the house at roughly 5:30 a.m. So, you're getting up at 4:30 a.m. or something. Right, you get to the airport on the first flight of the day. We land in Queenstown, beautiful Queenstown. Then we've got to run around and get the rental van, and get all the stuff. And all the actors need to get dressed, and everybody needs to get in their costume. Everyone needs to sort out their gear and do whatever, all that other stuff you got to do. And then after that, we drove up, the first mountain. No, we had some lunch, and then we drove up the first mountain, filmed up there. Then we drove down. Had second lunch, I think, because the first one was kind of brunch.
Yep.
And then we went up a second mountain up with where it was snowing, and filmed up there where it was snowing.
Ran out of time.
Then had to turn around, drive back down the mountain, and then drive for 2.5 hours to get to Te Anau, a different
Which is
town.
another 3-hour drive away from Queenstown, essentially.
Yeah.
And so it was.
That's day one.
That's day one,
right? So we get in. It's dark. We have our dinner, and we get ready for bed, and we go to bed because we know that in the morning we've got to catch the water taxi over to the Milford track, and the water taxi takes an hour
Yep.
Roughly
plus 20 minutes to drive to the water taxi.
Yeah, exactly. So you got all that travel just to get there, and then you finally get off the boat. I mean, you're finally on the Milford track. That's when you can start filming on the actual Milford track.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of travel, and if we do it again, it would definitely give ourselves allow a bit more time for that travel, because we were, even on the last day, we walked back along the Milford track, got there in time for the boat to take us back, rushed to do one more scene, and then rushed to the airport
in Queenstown.
So drove back again. So again, those day 1 and day 3 were actually not really very much filming.
Yeah.
And then day 2 being the big chunk of it.
Well, day 2, so we're on the Milford track, where there's no electricity in the hut, and we're spending the night in the hut on the Milford track. So we've got all our gear and our sleeping bags and other bits and pieces that we need. Everything you need for, I think it was 8 people to stay, overnight in this hut. Filming during the day. Get up in the morning, walk back, film a little bit more, water taxi again, another half an hour drive back to the town, film more stuff, try to squeeze in some lunch somewhere, and then jump in the car and then drive back to Queenstown again, and then on the final, catch the last flight out on the 3rd day. So 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. or something was the last flight out. So, and then you get back to Auckland, and then you've still got to drive back to your house as well.
Or catch an $80 taxi.
Or if you're one of the cast members who asked politely, get a taxi that the production had to pay for.
so yeah, I think, but it was cool, and you might be wondering from a filmmaking point of view, well, how did you do that? What about all the crew? We had the most minimal crew you could possibly have, which was essentially a soundie and a production assistant.
And a director of photography.
And the director of photography who was running the camera. So, he was essentially doing all those jobs as well. And so, that 3-person plus me, the director. So essentially a 3 or 4 person crew and the actors. And that's how we sort of kept it, that minimal, which was actually, I quite enjoyed actually having no one there.
It was also really smart to cast the producer as an actor, because that's one less person that you need. Just one less person.
It's true.
One less mouth to feed.
It's very freeing.
One less bum to wipe.
To sort of be able to work in that way. I really do enjoy that, because you're sort of throwing off all the constraints of filmmaking, because filmmaking is all about like each person's job, and they're all important, but each person goes, oh, well, wait, makeup hasn't looked at this yet. Well, there's no makeup, so I ain't looking at shit. Or the art department goes, oh, we just have to dress the set. Well, sorry, there is no set. You just walk in there and stand there, and that's where we're going to film it.
Yeah.
And all of these roles are really good and really important, can add huge amounts to the film, but it's really nice to just throw them all out the window and be like, hey, you guys act in this environment. That's all you have. You have the environment, you have the script, we'll try and capture it, as best we can, and let's play. And so, that was pretty cool to be able to film on that track, and we had already prepared by going on recce down there and figuring out all the places roughly where we wanted to film, and do all that sort of thing. So, it was definitely, that was our South Island experience. But essentially what we did is we essentially were filming the easiest stuff then. We're filming all the stuff that could be done with a crew of 4 people. But, this is a horror film. We have it's, I would say, I don't know if it's an ambitious horror film, but it's certainly not a easy horror film. So we wanted to create that environment, we wanted to do all that, but then obviously we wanted to do all the cool horror stuff as well, with people getting stabbed and, all that sort of thing. And so then to do that, you need to bring back in all those people. And so the second block of filming was up here in Auckland, where we were sort of essentially substituting a bunch of camping what are they called? Not camping. Scout camps. Scout camps. We're substituting a bunch of scout camps to be the respective Milford track huts and the surrounding area to be the Milford track at night. And so we then filmed for another block of 3 days, all night shoots, which I love, but no one else does. Oh no, some people like them, but definitely lots of people don't.
Well, I don't like them that much.
And essentially filming from dusk till dawn. At these things, and we filmed essentially 2 days at one scout camp and 1 day at another scout camp. And essentially the last day was essentially all the stuff out in the actual Milford track forest, and the first 2 days were sort of in these different huts at different times along the track, and involved, you know, a little bit more going on. So that's when we brought in the big crew. It's not actually a big crew, but it's big relative to having 4 people.
Yeah, it was more like 14.
Yeah,
instead of including the actors. I mean, so we had like 8 people in the South Island and like 14 people in the North Island.
Yeah,
and a couple of people that came and went for a few hours here and there, like the intimacy coordinator and the stunt coordinator. Yeah, and just like Dusk Till Dawn as well, Guy wrote a scene into the movie.
You're talking about a foot fetish where someone pours champagne down their leg into their foot,
Guy,
and then use it as a cup into their mouth.
Well, that's exactly what Guy did. He wrote that, and in the scene, I poured tequila down my leg, down my toes, and he cast himself in the movie just like Quentin Tarantino, and he was sucking the tequila off my toes.
Unfortunately, I've actually already had Harley's foot in my mouth.
That's true.
In a skit.
Foot and mouth disease. You can see that skit on the YouTube channel on the youtube.com/Pigville and the number 2, and it was Shit New Zealand Girls Say. It was called Shit New Zealand Girls Say. If you want to see my foot in Guy's mouth.
A viral hit.
Did actually do all right. All right.
People would sometimes ask me about that.
Really?
They'd be like, "Hey, are you the guy that got like a foot in your mouth?" And I was like, "Yep, that's me.
That's me. That's me. All right.
That's me.
Yeah,
that's what I've contributed to society.
Yeah, that's what that's what the internet remembers you for."
So yeah, we did that. It was obviously a more difficult shoot, more moving parts, more things to do, more things to figure out. A more conventional film set. So probably not as fun, or at least in my opinion, not as fun
as the South Island. Because you just feel those shackles. Yeah.
Kind of close around your neck.
Yeah.
As more people come in and things slow down.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of second guesses everything, or not second guess, but everyone's got an opinion on everything. Yeah. And you're just like, look, can we all just shut the fuck up and shoot this fucking scene? Let's worry about shooting the scene. You know. Yeah. Well, should he really say that then?
Yeah.
Well, why don't he just let him fucking say it?
Yeah.
And then if we don't like it after that, we'll make an adjustment.
Yeah.
How about we do that?
I feel like you're thinking of the same person I'm thinking of.
But yeah, so there were but it was still good. It was still a good, it was a good 3-day shoot. It was, pretty successful, in terms of sticking to our times and stuff like that. We did have to drop one scene on the last day, which I think on reflection, we should have always kind of factored that in the fact that we were kind of just banking on trying to do a little bit too much on that last day. Yeah. And it was always going to be a problem. So we should have just, well, our lights has gone out. I'm going to have to put that on charge. So we should have maybe just been like, look, let's just drop that scene and shove it somewhere else. It's just that we've actually also got quite a lot of pickups to do. So it's like, if we drop that scene, it's going to give us more work later. We can't get ahead of this.
Just more pickups later.
So we had to unfortunately drop one scene on the last day, but we got all the important scenes, the most important scenes done, involving people getting thrown around and
the stunts,
stabbed and what have you.
Yeah.
And all that stuff looked
And the
pretty
intimacy. So it did look cool. You've had a look at the footage and looking good.
Yes, I have looked at that footage. In fact, I started doing a rough cut while I was away recently, and just going, okay, well, yeah, that bit will work then. That's good to know. Yes, although we actually realized this like later in the night. Critical error that we made.
Yeah.
That essentially there's a scene where the camera gets knocked off someone and then it kind of rolls to a stop.
Yeah.
Right? And essentially the way that it gets knocked off means that it has to roll a certain way.
Yeah.
And we rolled it the wrong way.
So you'll have to flop that footage.
So
you'll have to flop that spin.
Well, I'm not exactly sure how we'll fix that.
Yeah.
Yes, flopping is an option, actually, although it will not work because then the person's on the facing the wrong the person on the ground is facing the wrong way if you flop it.
Yeah.
So actually, I did wonder if we would reshoot that swing, and go the other way with the swinging of the hit that knocks the camera off.
Yeah,
that would then work.
You're right. So he swings. He's a southpaw. He's a southpaw.
Swings
he's a left-handed.
the other way. Well, he doesn't have to. He can still swing with the right. But he's just got to hit him in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So that was one big mistake that we both, myself and Isaac, the cinematographer, realized. That sinking feeling of a total fuck up that just washes over you, but you're way like this was like several hours later. It may not even be the same day, but I think it was just like, wait a second. It rolled that way, and then it rolled that way. Yeah. That's the wrong way to roll.
That sounds to me like a bit of jump cutting around. It's all chaos. You don't really know what's going on. It's all shaky.
Well, we essentially...
You can disguise it.
To fix that, I rolled around on a mat with the camera. Rolled it both ways to try and create something that you could cut into to kind of conceal that.
Yeah. That sounds to me like it'll work.
But overall, it was a pretty good shooting experience. Although, again, bringing in all those people, the stunt coordinator, the intimacy coordinator, there's too many coordinators now. Yeah, there's too many coordinators in film.
We need the coordinator to coordinate all these coordinators.
Now, I will say, they were both important, and we couldn't have done the things we wanted to do without them.
And they both did a good job.
And they both did a really good job. And helped make the film better. So, but it's also just one of those things where, back on our first film was like, just fucking chuck him. Just throw him down. Just throw him down, see what happens. Yeah. Now, we're not saying that's the correct way to do things, but it's the quick way to do things. Yeah. Just throw him and see where he lands.
Well, I do feel like
throw him over,
because I was the one doing that stunt, and I feel like as a result of having that rehearsal with the stunt coordinator and then having him there, it did make me more confident to do it, which would have made it look better, presumably on camera.
Yes,
you made me more confident that I could do it again and again without hurting myself. Yeah, which probably made it look better on camera. Hopefully, so
one of our biggest actual problems in terms of like time-consuming things is we had this helmet rig set up, which we called the kill cam.
And for context, everybody, this is a found footage horror film. That's why we're caring about which way the camera rolls around and cameras falling off.
And we were talking about cameras rolling. Yeah, it's because it's found footage. So all cameras exist within this film. And can be knocked off people or placed in places, etc. So anyway, we had this kill cam, which was essentially this rigged up motorcycle helmet with a camera on it. But every time we had to rig up the kill cam, it took like 45 minutes of fucking around to get it back on or off into its normal configuration. And this is one of those things where it's like, man, you know what would have been real helpful right now? 2 cameras. 2 cameras would have really solved this problem, but we didn't necessarily realize that it would be this really time-consuming thing when we conceived of it. It's like, just chuck it on and boop, you're good to go. But as is often the case, that's never the case.
As is often the case, that's never the case.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, from my perspective, it all went, both shoots, the South Island and the North Island, went very smoothly. No, from a producing perspective, I mean, like no big health and safety issues or crew dramas or everything, everybody got fed, everything went okay,
No one got addicted to pee and tried to start a crew mutiny.
Has that happened on, is that a little
That happened on the zombie film.
Who got addicted to pee? Oh,
he was already addicted to pee. He didn't get addicted to pee on the shoot.
The
he was already
guy.
addicted to pee. The gaffer. So he didn't get addicted to pee on the shoot.
Yeah,
he was addicted to pee.
I don't remember him being addicted to pee,
and it was causing some.
I do remember
problems.
the mutiny. I do remember the mutiny on I Survived a Zombie Holocaust.
No, he was 100% a.
And did he come from the North Island for that show?
No,
was
Christchurch.
He was like, Christchurch, of course.
Put two and two together.
Yeah,
Pee addict, Christchurch.
Pee addict and
come on,
the pee capital. It makes sense.
So anyway, but no one did that on this one, so that was good. That was refreshing. It was different. It was change.
Yeah, good. I just for the record, I didn't hire the pee addicted gaffer.
No,
that was not me, not my area of responsibility.
Well, no one knew he was addicted to pee at the beginning.
Well, that's the thing about a good pee addict is they don't tell everybody about it.
No, they don't. They
especially if you're trying to work.
They are functioning addicts. A lot of pee addicted gaffers are functioning
pee addicted gaffers. Yeah. Well, so anyway, a very smooth shoot, and I really enjoyed the acting as well. I enjoyed this style of acting where it's like, because it's sort of improv. It's like you've got the script, you know what you've got to say. You do a version of the script. You do a take in the way that it's written on the page, and then you do another take, which is like the same idea, but maybe just a little more natural or a different way of delivering it or whatever. And I really enjoyed that. I felt it was just a really took the pressure off to memorize the lines. No, but gave you the freedom to explore a little more and have more fun with it, and maybe perhaps be more authentic or something as well. It kind of basically it took the pressure off to learn the lines, but gave you made it a lot more fun.
Yeah, look, and
free.
From my perspective, that was also my favorite part of it. My favorite part of most film shoots is working with the actors.
Shout out to Tyler Adams on the live stream. Just got here.
That is the part that I enjoy most, is working with the actors, and it is really fun to do these sort of more organic, natural things. And I did really enjoy essentially what is a different style of filming. Where we have our script and we try and do that, but we also have the opportunity to deviate from it, make adjustments, and it not ruin everything and continuity and all that sort of thing. So that was really fun and positive for me too, and probably the part that I enjoyed most. And I also enjoyed I had this genius idea that all the actors would have their own cameras. And all the actors would then take those cameras and film additional stuff separate to the script that we could potentially use. And that was a genius idea by me, because we got lots of great stuff from that, which, is just about exploring and fleshing out your character and kind of giving more weight to the scenes that are written and all the stuff that can be really positive from an acting standpoint, and then the benefit is, some of it could be used. It's not even that it was just an exercise for yourself. It's like an exercise for yourself that we may well capitalize on, and will hopefully potentially help us get out of fuck ups that we've done, in terms of the actual story of why isn't this addressed, or I feel like someone would really talk about this here, or whatever. We kind of have
little improv,
have the opportunity to
cut it in there,
to drop some of that in, and I think that's really cool and a fun way to discover new, interesting things that will benefit the story.
Well, we could talk all day about this movie, but we've only got approximately 20 minutes left in this show, because I've got, I'm sure you've got things to do as well. You've got a recording in here of another podcast at some point, and I've got a meeting because I'm chasing that Chinese TikTok money. I'm chasing the Chinese TikTok money. So I've got a meeting soon about potentially shooting a TikTok series. And what's really interesting about it is there are Chinese series that already exist, and they've been funded by Chinese companies to make content for TikTok, and they've got tens of millions of views. Like literally, I'm pretty sure they've got billions of views over the combined all the various series that they've got done. And the business model seems to be that they make 100 episodes and each one is 1 minute long. So that's 100 minutes of content. That's a feature film, but it's broken up into 100 1-minute episodes. And those 1 minute episodes, each one sort of, tell the next little part of the story, and then it ends on a presumably kind of a cliffhanger every time. And they're super cheesy, like soap opera, very dramatic, where everybody is super beautiful and the clothing is really high end and the cars and the mansions are all really high end, but the writing and the acting and even the technical, like the lighting and the framing and all that type of stuff, it's kind of average, not really that great. And so what they want to do is they want to make the Western version, well, they've already made a bunch of these, the Western version of these Chinese series. And so, of course, they went to New Zealand's premier producer. They had heard about me in China, and then they
Big
said,
in China.
Yeah, and so I'm in talks with them at the moment to see if we can get some funding, but it would be with a different director. It would be with Nicole. Her name is Nicole Chen. She's a dear friend of mine and collaborator of mine, and she... we would be working together to maybe make this series. So fingers crossed. I'll let you know how that goes.
They didn't want a English director directing a Chinese series in a different language. For some reason, they didn't knock on my door.
Yeah,
it's weird.
You can see why it makes sense because Nicole is Chinese, but been in New Zealand for a long time. Yeah. So it's like, it makes sense because she probably gets the cultural thing on both sides of it, She go, okay, I can see what they're trying to do in this Chinese version and we'll do it this way in the New Zealand version. Because the thing about the
New Zealand version is going to be in Chinese?
No, it's in English.
Okay, it's in English.
So it's what the hell? What the hell? It could have been you. To be fair, Nicole was the one that put me onto this.
Yes.
Nicole came to me with it, not the other way around. Of course, if I had been approached by the Chinese TikTok company, I would have gone directly to you.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I would have said probably you should maybe look at someone more like Nicole because I don't know if I'm really qualified to tell this story.
Yeah, well, the thing about it is there's a lot of cultural things that are not really going to work in the English version of it. So, for example, in the series, the Chinese version, they're always slapping each other. They're constantly slapping each other over honor and different types of things like that. They're like, those shoes look like my dog wore them, and other weird things like that. And then the other person slaps them and goes, how dare you talk about my dog or my shoes or whatever, it's just weird. It's weird things that would, if we did it in a Western setting, it would be really strange to see all this slapping. Because, I don't know what it's like in China, but in New Zealand, if somebody slaps me, body's going to hit the floor,
Someone's getting dropped.
Yeah. I'll be throwing hands.
Someone's getting taken out.
So anyway, I'll let you all know how that goes. But I'm excited because if it comes together, I'm excited because, it's an interesting challenge. It's got a real quick turnaround. It's got to be finished like early next year. And also, I just love the idea that we can go and shoot something in a soap opera way where the performances kind of don't really matter that much. As long as the person stands in the right place and says the right words, then you can buy it and move on to the next one, which I don't know. Sounds kind of it's like the Shortland Street way of shooting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So yeah, no, for me, I was sort of like, I think that's a cool project. I do think it's good to not the stakes aren't that the stakes are high, but the stakes of we got to get everything right. It's more like, we have to get it filmed.
Yep, we have to get it shot.
It's got to make sense, and it's got to follow the story. We've got to get this 100 minutes in the can. But maybe that doesn't matter if some of the writing and acting is didn't quite hit.
Well, that's the thing is they're popular anyway. because the writing, and it's almost as if the bad writing and all of that is kind of part of it. I think that's part of why people watch. They're like, oh my God, this is so stupid. What happens next?
Yeah.
But actually, I do know that the budget I submitted to them has been rejected.
Good.
So we're off to a good start. But now we've got this meeting, and I guess presumably they're going to give us, hopefully they're going to give us some feedback, and then we can come back and go, okay, cool, so we'll adjust it. And
I have a feeling the feedback is like, we were thinking half this.
Maybe.
I feel like that's going to be the feedback.
Yeah, well, you might be right. You might be right. I just did it to the number that I was told it was, were supposedly likely to get. It could be done for half as much money. It's like, how long is a piece of string? We could do it. It just depends how many favors you're willing to call in, and you've obviously got to compromise on the quality of the cast and crew. If you can't afford to pay them properly, you're going to have to be like, hey, well, we'll just cast this person then, this person who doesn't have an agent. And apparently with a lot of the American ones, they're not even using actors. They're just using like their mates and stuff like that.
It's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'd suggest definitely as a time saver, shoot multi-camera.
Well, actually, mate, I did kind of pitch that idea to Nicole, but I was even going to pitch another idea. I don't know if she'd go for this, but I was like, let's literally shoot this like Friends or like Shortland Street, where you take the ATM switcher, you connect up your cameras, and you have them ISO recording, so each camera is recording itself, so you've still got the footage, but then as you go, you do at least a rough cut, just live cutting, not the director, but have the editor or somebody.
Yeah.
Just live cutting as they go. Cool, wide shot, close up, just following the script. Who's talking? Yep, cut. Cut it live. If that works, you're going to save a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely, you save a lot of time. It's definitely doable if you've got enough camera operators.
Yeah, it's true, because you do have to reframe and stuff like that.
And
like
also there is just essentially what you'd have to do is, depending on how you're shooting it, but if you're not shooting, like if you're shooting cross coverage, which means you're shooting a camera on myself and one actor on Harley, so
look,
this is
cross coverage
right now.
Right, yeah, we're shooting cross coverage.
And cross coverage, like
that's my one, that's his one.
That's how everything is shot, but it's normally shot with one camera. So one camera does all three of those angles.
And you move them all around all the time.
And you just keep moving the camera. Cross coverage is when you have two cameras set up and you're shooting at the same time. So to really achieve that, probably in this environment, you'd have to have those cameras on very long lenses, so they're not getting each other in frame as everyone moves around.
Yeah. The thing is, there might not be as much moving around as you think, because I've watched these episodes and a lot of them start off wide shot, 4 or 5 people standing in a circle.
Yeah.
And then it's just 3 people are probably just standing there watching, basically. They're kind of in the scene, but not necessarily in this episode, which is only 1 minute long. And then 2 people will be arguing, and it'll cut between those 2 people who are arguing, and then back out to the wide.
Well, I think, the other key is sort of like, obviously, if it's set in a mansion, it's like, cool, we've got, 30 minutes of mansion to shoot today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe not 30 minutes, but we've got 15 to 20 minutes of the mansion.
Yeah.
Shooting all of the mansion.
Yeah.
Everything mansion. Go change your clothes.
Yeah.
We're not going to...
doing all the mansion stuff.
Change your clothes. We're not moving the cameras at all.
Yeah.
This is just a different day.
Yeah.
And you're back.
Yeah.
In this completely different thing.
Yeah.
Getting slapped for a different reason.
For a different reason.
Yeah.
Well, I think it sounds fun. So yeah, good. And I don't know if you want to touch on this very much, but it is a very sad episode.
Oh God. Yeah.
Of Who's Dead this week. Now, I'll talk about my 2 first. Going from least important to most important. I am, of course, talking about Matthew Perry. Rest his soul. Chenandla Bong from Friends. Rest his soul. He wasn't my favorite character on Friends, but he was still a very enjoyable. And it's one of those things about us getting older is you're starting to watch all these people drop off. Like Bruce Willis can't talk anymore. That's it. He's done. He's not making movies. Can't talk anymore. Then you've got Chandler. Chandler's dead. Chandler. Can you believe it? Now, obviously, this was several weeks ago now, but we haven't done an episode since then. But Chandler's gone. It's just, and they're dropping off. Arnie's like 70 years old now.
75.
75. Yeah, I'm reading his book at the moment. I'm listening to his audiobook at the moment, and yeah, he's 75 years. Christ alive. And we're fucking 40. So yes, Matthew Perry, rest in peace. Could you be any more rested? And then the other person is, and this one genuinely is a very sad one, is I'm talking about John Michael Alphas, who is a filmmaker in LA, who we met when we went to Scream Fest for I Survived a Zombie Holocaust, and he was very good to us and showed us around, very welcoming, just a very nice guy who just showed us around and introduced us to lots of people in Hollywood. He was the photographer at and behind the scenes video guy at Scream Fest, working for the festival, and him and his girlfriend Angelica made a lot of effort to make us feel really welcome, and we had a great old time, and then we partied and all that, and then the next time I went there for No Caller ID, and same again, he welcomed me with open arms, took me to his house and showed me the set he was working on, and and then they gave me a ride back out to the airport, which in LA is like 300 kilometers away. It takes 6 hours to get to the airport, and they didn't mind. They went out of their way and just took me there and stuff, and really lovely. And then so John recently just died quite suddenly with a sort of a shock cancer diagnosis, a very serious cancer diagnosis. He went in with some sort of internal pains and thinking it was one thing, something not too serious.
Like, kidney stones, basically,
yeah,
which is when
common,
very common.
Yeah,
not life threatening, can be very painful. Something that a lot of people get.
Yeah. And then they said, actually, no, this is a very serious, aggressive cancer that's really developed. And, you might only have a little while to live. And he did only live for a little while. They did various treatments, I think, but obviously they didn't work.
2 more weeks or something, 2 to 3 weeks from the time of his diagnosis to his death.
Yeah. It's terrible. And I messaged him during that time, and I said in my message, I said, look, you don't need to reply to this or anything like that. I know you got lots on your plate. You're really busy. Lots going on, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm thinking of you, and I can't remember exactly what I said, but I sort of sending him some strength and some saying that type of thing, and then but he didn't see that message. It was never seen. And then
yeah, but I'm not sure that he still may have seen that.
Well, you can see the beginning of the message, but he hadn't clicked on it because it was not read. It didn't say read.
Yeah.
So he never saw that, sadly. He might have seen that I'd sent him something though, and probably he would have got a million messages at the same time.
Yes.
All from various acquaintances saying the same sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
But yes, anyway, to conclude, rest in peace to John Michael Alphas and Matthew Perry.
Yeah. Also, he was only 40, John.
Yep. Yeah, that's the other scary thing.
He was only 40, and he was sort of in pre-production. So, my experience with John is, very similar. I sort of kept in touch. I didn't go to No Caller ID. We only had enough money to send one person.
So it was me. Actually, I think you were not available, I think. Or maybe I just paid for myself.
That may have happened too.
I think maybe I just paid for myself. Yeah, because we didn't get any type of travel grant for that, I don't think.
But anyway, I sort of kept in touch with him over the years. He talked about, so he's made one feature film, and he shot that on film. And, it was, low budget affair, very much like Zombie Holocaust, but made with a lot of love and a lot of passion, and by someone who genuinely really cared. And he didn't care about making the easiest film. He cared about making the film that was truest to his artistic vision, which was much more difficult by shooting it on